Welcome to the week of March 17th, 2014. This is the Astrology. First of all, happy St. Patrick's Day. A beautiful full moon sits at 26 degrees Virgo and starts the week off with the promise of earthbound action and detail, very Virgo-like qualities. This moon seems to ask, what details are we overlooking that require our attention? Well, there's much to digest. Since last week, both Uranus and Pluto have shifted 1 degree. Pluto's at 13 degrees, Uranus is at 11. In the case of Pluto, it now sits at that 13-degree mark where it will join in the Grand Cardinal Cross headed our way the last week of April. And as Uranus inches 1 degree closer to 11 degrees Aries. At the same time last week, the great benefic, Jupiter, sits firmly at 10 degrees Cancer after stationing last week on the 6th of March. It's truly amazing to see this much planetary activity in such close proximity. Within the first week of March alone, we have Mars going retrograde, Saturn going retrograde, a new moon on March the 1st, only to be followed by Saturn, as I mentioned, going retrograde the day after on March the 2nd, then followed by Jupiter stationing direct on March the 6th. The term station indicates a time of inaction, such as in the word stationary. During the stations, the planets carry an intensity that heightens their presence on the stage and demands attention. The best example for this would be, think of yourself walking or driving down a busy street with cars and people swarming all around you. If you stopped in the middle of that swirl and stood still, you would be noticed and your position would create some sort of reaction, especially if you were driving and you suddenly came to a stop. So it's like a snake recoiling. The traffic would ebb until you decided to move, and the flow began once again. This is sort of how the planets act when they have a station. So their power and meaning and presence is eminently felt. In the case of Mars, the planet of action, we might see a slowing of the progress rather than swiftness. With Saturn, we see accountability and duty being reconsidered. Are we doing the right thing? It's a good question. When we look at the role of the U.S. on the world stage, especially, maybe we should consider fixing some of our own leaky faucets before we go off and plumb other nations of the world. And Jupiter? Jupiter brings light and abundance and goodwill, generally speaking. It really just amplifies wherever it is. So this may be a time when we return to our roots and issue a repair order where it's needed most, right here at home. It's the most important place. This week, we also witness the vernal equinox, and the Sun enters Aries the Ram on March the 20th. The equinox represents that time when we see equal parts daylight and darkness. With Mars, the ruling planet of Aries, now in retrograde, the Rams of the world may have to slow down for once and reconsider their options and plans. Every Friday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, I host a radio show called Turning of the Wheel. It's on Awakening Zone Radio. I have great guests on each week, great topics, and it's always an informative forum for people to call in and get advice about either with their astrology or whatever the topic may be. Call me at 1-714-364-4353 or write me for a reading at chris@chrisflisher.com. To get in touch with me personally, it's 978-393-1036. That's 978-393-1036. And I'll talk to you all next week.